goes to show you how wrong you can be. You know, but I did on more than one occasion. The main question I get asked about that career, I guess, is the one that I was asked just recently again. And they said, well, why would a fellow who was elected twice to the United States Senate, who apparently had no opposition, you know, to run again, why you put term limits on yourself? Why did you resign from or leave when she was not running the United States Senate? And I always tell folks that after 8 years in Washington, I long for the realism and sincerity of Hollywood. Thank you very, very much for extending me an invitation to spend a few minutes with you tonight. I appreciate very much what you're doing. It's the first fundraiser I've been into in a long time where I'm not going to have to ask for any money. And I appreciate that opportunity also. I'm privileged to have my wife Jerry here and our little 4-year-old girl Hayden, who has joined us after, I guess, pizza from upstairs. Well, she got some French fries now, so she's working the entire hotel, apparently. One of the considerations we had when we thought about running for president, of course, were the children. And I told Jerry, I said, I'm just going to miss you guys if I do this. I'll just miss you a lot. She said, no, you won't. I said, why not? She says, because we're going to be with you. And she has been a lot. And it's indeed a family affair. Hayden, of course, being our daughter, is very precocious and for her years, and at least we think so. We call home occasionally when Jerry and I are out together. The children are home. One time recently, Jerry's aunt was staying with the kids, and she said, I got one to tell you what we called it. So, no, what is it this time? I said, well, Jerry wanted me to write down all the people she loved. And I got my pen out, and she started dictating to me. And she said, first of all, put God. She put God. She said, then my mama, Jerry Lynn Thompson. And she said, well, hey, I didn't know you knew your mama's middle name. And we didn't either. I mean, Jerry never uses her middle name. We don't know really how she picked it up. But she said, that's great. Do you know your papa's middle name? And she thought for a second, she said, yeah. She said, Fred 08 Thompson. So I don't know. Thank you, honey. So I don't know if I'm spending too much time away from home or too much time at home, but she's with this political campaign for sure. I want to share a few thoughts with you tonight about my growing up. I guess maybe in more ways than one over the years. In order to make a point or two I'd like to make, I take myself back to my college days and reading Barry Goldwater's Conscience of a Conservative. What an impression that made on me. And although my folks were the Democrats, my dad back home, I read that book. It was not only his thoughts and the challenges to a young man, but the guy was obviously telling the truth. And his words rang out like a bell on a clear winter night to someone like me, and I was hooked forever. I went back home, started the Young Republican Club, been working in the party the rest of my life. The aftermath of that was for me to become interested in government, to become interested in politics, to become interested in our country's history, to read about our founding fathers and how this place came about, and how they came here with a notion about certain eternal truths, how some things remain the same in their eyes in a changing world, that there was such a thing as human nature, that human beings are often prone to error, and we all do, that we can do miraculous things when the occasion calls for it. They reminded us of the Declaration of Independence that our basic rights come from God and not from any government. They set up a government that was suspicious of power, especially centralized power. Too much power in too few hands. Power distributed not only at the federal level, but between the federal government and the state governments. And gave the states the right and the opportunity to experiment in and of themselves compete with each other for ideas, for business, for commerce. I took those things, I took them to heart, and it formed the basis of my own political beliefs. I never thought I'd run for political office, but I worked in the vineyard, so to speak, for a long, long time for a lot of other people. Came to Florida on many different occasions for candidates who I thought were doing a good thing. Along the way, I got to do a lot of interesting things. Marcus set them out, things that I never thought a country boy from Tennessee would be able to do. But I lived in America, and I lived an American story, just like many of you have lived an American story. But your personal life, I think, always shapes you more than your professional life. And I had the privilege of growing up in a very humble household. My dad, actually our resume, for some reason there, I guess the staff thought it was correct, says first to go to college. Actually, I was the first to go to high school. My folks came in off the farm after having completed the 8th grade, had to go to work, met each other and married, were the best parents in the world. And my daddy ran a little used car place there in Lawrenceburg. I always thought people make jokes about used car dealers. If there ever was an honest guy, it's a person who sold used cars in the same spot for 40 years. Now that's an honest guy. I took for granted so much that are so important to me now. I still have a mama, but I don't have my dad anymore. He had kind of a rough background, grew up hard, and was pretty tough and pretty rough. But when he met Mama and I came along, it all changed. I never saw a drink in the house. I never heard him raise his voice to my mama or her to him. And we were in church at least 3 times a week, unless there was a meeting, as we called it, and then it was much, much more than that. And he set a standard for me that was not much to have to live up to from a professional standpoint, but a standard from a personal standpoint that I have always had in the back of my mind, even in those moments when I didn't live up to those standards. It's something that guided me and has for the rest of my life. Got married at 17. Had a family shortly after that. Went to work, started borrowing our way through school and working. Married for 25 years. Divorced, had 3 wonderful children. Then, and got to do these things we're talking about. Went to Senate, was single for many years. And then, some things happened in my life that were the worst and the best that can happen to any human being, especially a father. We lost a daughter. I decided to leave the United States Senate, had a little grant. She left a little son, she and her husband had. I met my wife, Jerry. We got married, and much to my surprise, I found out that the next year we were going to be parents. I was going to be a father again. I had been a father so early, and then I was going to be a father again. And almost from the moment that that happened, I knew that it was the most wonderful blessing that I had ever had. And from the moment that I saw that sonogram, which I don't know how far back they go, but I certainly, when I was a young father trying to get ahead, I didn't pay much attention to it. Probably wouldn't have paid that much attention to it anyway, to tell you the truth, that they've done it. But they're available now. And I knew that when I saw what I saw, I was looking at my child. And life has never been the same because of that. And she's here with us tonight. Shortly after that, had a little lump in my neck. Went to my doctor. He aspirated it. Said, no problem. I went quite